The countdown returns. U.S. leak reveals Iran's nuclear program set back only months, not years. What if the world's most volatile region is only months away from a nuclear tipping point? In a revelation that has sent shockwaves through diplomatic and intelligence circles, newly leaked U.S. intelligence suggests that Iran's nuclear weapons program has only been delayed by months, not years. This dramatic insight, reported by BBC News, contradicts more optimistic public assessments and forces urgent reassessment of both regional security and international non-proliferation efforts. With the Iran-Israel conflict already at a boiling point and tensions between Tehran and Washington escalating, the leak threatens to accelerate military planning, economic realignment, and humanitarian fears across the Middle East and beyond. This summary explores the wider implications of the intelligence leak, drawing connections between diplomatic failures, historical trends in nuclear deterrence, and the human cost of geopolitical brinkmanship. From secret facilities and broken deals to power plays and policy paralysis, this is not just a news story. It's a time-sensitive question with global consequences. Is the world ready for a nuclear Iran? The end of diplomatic pretenses amid rising fallout. Leak allegedly from a classified U.S. intelligence dossier reveals that Iran's enrichment and weapons-related capabilities have not been significantly degraded, despite Israeli sabotage operations and Western sanctions. Instead, Tehran's nuclear infrastructure is described as resilient and advancing, with timelines to a potential bomb compressed to a matter of months. This confirmation undermines years of international diplomatic messaging, particularly efforts to reassure regional allies that containment was effective. The U.S. State Department, when pressed, neither confirmed nor denied the leak's accuracy, but reiterated a commitment to preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. However, critics argue that the leak exposes the failure of both the now-defunct Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA) and the piecemeal strategy of cyber attacks and targeted assassinations. Without a comprehensive deal or credible deterrence, the road ahead appears increasingly unstable. The diplomatic stakes are further complicated by the broader geopolitical context. Iran is now drawing closer to Russia and China, both of which are engaged in their own strategic competitions with the West. This shift in alliances not only insulates Iran from Western pressure but also complicates efforts to build a united international front. Israel, in response to the leak, has issued a stern warning. We are running out of time. Economic shockwaves, oil prices surge, markets react, and military budgets swell amid rising tensions. As whispers of a nuclear breakout scenario grew louder, oil markets began responding with volatility. Brent crude prices edged higher on fears that military confrontation could disrupt supply routes through the Strait of Hormuz, through which nearly 20% of global oil transits. Countries dependent on Middle Eastern oil, including India, South Korea, and much of the European Union, now face renewed energy insecurity. Defense markets are also reacting. Shares in U.S. and Israeli defense contractors rose sharply following the leak, as speculation over airstrikes, covert operations, and potential escalation drives new procurement cycles. Within the U.S., the intelligence leak is fueling bipartisan calls for a more aggressive stance on Iran, potentially paving the way for expanded military budgets under the banner of nuclear containment. For Iran, however, the economic story is more complex. Sanctions remain crippling, yet Tehran has adapted through strategic energy partnerships with China and illicit trade channels. Ironically, the perception that Iran is on the verge of going nuclear could act as a geopolitical bargaining chip, allowing Tehran to negotiate from a position of strength even as its population faces rising inflation and unemployment. The current moment bears chilling resemblance to other historical nuclear inflection points, from the Cuban Missile Crisis to North Korea's breakout in the early 2000s. In each case, world powers underestimated how quickly a regional actor could alter global equilibrium. By crossing the nuclear threshold, if Iran follows that path, the Middle East may become the next theater of nuclear ambiguity and strategic miscalculation. Israel's long-standing doctrine of preemptive action adds urgency to the scenario. Unlike the U.S., which can afford long-term containment strategies, Israel views a nuclear Iran as an existential threat. This creates a collision course in policy. Washington wants to deter and delay. Jerusalem may choose to strike. The leak brings this divergence into sharp focus, and may embolden Israeli hardliners who argue time is no longer a luxury. Meanwhile, Sunni Arab states, especially Saudi Arabia, are watching with alarm. Riyadh has warned that if Iran goes nuclear, it too will pursue enrichment capabilities, a move that would trigger a regional arms race. For international institutions like the IAEA and the UN, the erosion of the non-proliferation regime threatens to undo decades of hard-won stability. And for ordinary citizens across the region, the consequences could be catastrophic. While the headlines focus on uranium and missiles, millions of civilians live in the shadows of this geopolitical chess game. In Iran, economic hardship has intensified. Under sanctions and isolation, healthcare systems are fraying, medicine is scarce, and censorship has stifled dissent. Many Iranians resent the government's nuclear ambitions, seeing them as a distraction from urgent domestic needs. In Israel, citizens now face the grim possibility of a future shaped by nuclear defense drills, hardened targets, and increased missile threats. The psychological toll is immense, especially in towns and cities already affected by rocket fire from proxy groups. Across the wider region, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, the humanitarian landscape is deteriorating under the weight of proxy violence, failing infrastructure, and chronic displacement. The threat of military action, whether conventional or covert, further imperils aid operations. NGOs warn that any airstrike campaign or sudden escalation would devastate already fragile populations and send new waves of refugees toward borders that are ill-prepared for the fallout. In this sense, the leaked intelligence isn't just a strategic warning, it's a humanitarian alarm bell. The leaked U.S. intelligence serves as a blunt reminder: the Iran nuclear question is far from resolved. Despite years of diplomacy, sabotage, and sanctions, Tehran appears to be closer than ever to becoming a nuclear-armed state. And the world's response or lack thereof may define the next decade of international security. What happens in the coming months could reshape everything from oil markets to global arms treaties. As the clock ticks and red lines blur, the choice facing global leaders is stark: act boldly now, or prepare for a world where the rules of nuclear restraint no longer apply. Stay tuned, watch the full documentary right after the summary on this channel.
The truce between Israel and Iran appears to be holding for now, hours after President Trump accused both sides of violating the fragile ceasefire that he announced overnight. As he set off for the NATO summit this morning, the president swore in front of reporters as his frustration, particularly at Israel, boiled over. You'll hear in full what he had to say in a moment. Tonight, Donald Trump has been warmly welcomed in The Hague, where NATO leaders have sat down to dinner at the start of the two-day summit on defence. It comes, though, as questions are now being raised in the United States about just how successful the American airstrikes were on Iran's nuclear facilities. Here's our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
Israel launched a barrage of airstrikes on Tehran as the ceasefire deadline approached, also striking Iranian missile launchers in a last-minute, all-out assault. Donald Trump was furious with both Iran and particularly Israel for not respecting the deal.
I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot.
We often see President Trump exasperated, but never actually swearing like this.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Understand that Israel has pushed him too far this time, just when he's on his way to take a victory lap at a NATO summit in The Hague, but only if the truce holds. He posted on social media, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Then from onboard Air Force One, in a call to the Israeli Prime Minister, which the White House described as exceptionally firm and direct, Trump demanded he stick to the ceasefire. And then posted again saying, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with a friend of mine.
The NATO Secretary-General, Mark Rutte, is hosting Donald Trump in The Hague tonight. They get on well, but he might be very surprised to find the text messages he sent praising the president posted on social media. He wrote, "Mr. President, dear Donald, congratulations and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary, something no one else dared to do. It makes us all safer." On Air Force One, Mr. Trump is already talking about his desire to agree a ceasefire in Ukraine.
I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" I said, "No, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you."
Donald Trump loves a grand VIP welcome, arriving at the Royal Palace in The Hague, where he's meeting other NATO leaders, talking to them about spending more on their own defence, about Ukraine, and what he considers to be his crowning achievement in the Middle East. It's being reported here in America tonight that those American airstrikes on Iran might not have done as much damage to their nuclear facilities as Donald Trump claimed when he said they had been completely obliterated. An early Defense Department assessment that's been leaked says that the core components of Iran's nuclear program may not have been destroyed, that the country might only have been set back a few months, and that much of their enriched uranium stockpiles could have been moved to secret sites before the attack. Now, the White House are very angry about that. They've pushed back, saying this is flat wrong. The press secretary said everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their target. Total obliteration, she said. But they're not saying the Defense Department assessment is untrue.
Sarah Smith, our North America editor, thank you. Well, Israel and Iran had launched large-scale attacks at each other overnight. In Iran, targets were hit in the capital, Tehran, and in the northern region of Gilan, where local officials now say at least 16 people were killed. In Israel, the southern city of Beersheba was hit. 4 people were killed in a missile strike on a residential building. From Jerusalem, Lucy Williamson reports.
Beersheba was still a war zone this morning as Iran announced its commitment to peace. Rescue teams bringing out bodies from an apartment block, hit in a final salvo of missiles, fired minutes before Iran agreed to the truce. One sliced through the walls straight into a bomb shelter, rescuers said, killing several people inside.
It's not about how many landed, it's why are missiles still being targeted towards civilian buildings like this?
There's meant to be a ceasefire this morning.
Well, you know, actions speak volumes, and this speaks for itself.
I think Israel need to hit back Iran because Iran kill people. Iran said peace, but there is no peace, no peace.
As we were there, another alert came in, warning of more missiles fired from Iran, after Israel had also agreed to the truce. But Israeli planes, on their way to retaliate, were called back home on the orders of Donald Trump. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister vowed to act against any new nuclear threat.
All the actions that our fighters have taken have brought Iran's nuclear program to ruins. And if anyone in Iran tries to revive this project, we will act with the same determination and strength to end any such attempt. I repeat, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
Iran still has the capability to fire missiles at Israel and has warned of a powerful response to any further attacks. The war has shifted power in Israel's favor, but tonight in Tehran, protesters called for their leaders to resist.
We must see it through to the end. There's no benefit in stopping now. Just like what happened in Gaza and Lebanon, Israel, America, and Trump himself cannot be trusted at all.
Iran will avenge the people you killed, said Suhaila. One day we'll catch you off guard. Be sure of that. In northern Israel today, a souvenir from 12 days of conflict. An interceptor used in Israel's air defenses. Israel says this short war has made the region safer by weakening Iran as a military threat. But it's weakened the regime as well. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Beersheba.